Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 201 of Bill Man the No. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 201 of Bill Man the Sport Guys podcast. I'm your host, Bill Man the Sports Guy. And always remember, for the latest news of the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and college sports, this is the podcast to be. So, the fact that baseball season's finally back, and I want to apologize that this is coming out late, and we're almost like 1 month into the season. But before the season, I did write up my rankings of all 30 Major League Baseball teams coming into this season. So I know we're about a month in. Stuff has changed. I do apologize, but nonetheless, let's get this out of the way. Coming in at number 30, I actually have the Miami Marlins as the worst team in Major League Baseball. Let's be honest, from front office to the roster, this team stinks. No superstars. They're most likely going to trade Sandy Alcantara, which I wouldn't be shocked if they did. And they're basically just blowing up their roster. So I have the Miami Marlins as the worst team in Major League Baseball. Coming in at number 29, I have the Colorado Rockies. Excuse me. Now, it's simple for the Rockies. They got some decent hitting, like Ezekiel Tovar. They still have Brendan Rodgers. They have Ryan McMahon. I could go on. However, it's the pitching that makes me question. Let's be honest. Who was the last really good pitcher that the Colorado Rockies have had? I mean, I know Pal Freeland was good for 1 year. Baldo Jimenez, I guess. I know they had Jose Contreras for a little bit, but let's ask ourselves this. Who was the last really good pitcher that the Rockies have had? Which is why I have them as the second worst team in Major League Baseball. Not the actual worst, because I have the Marlins. Coming in at number 28, it's the Chicago White Sox. Okay, I was going back and forth between last place or could I bump them up a bit? Now, realistically, I could see them be better than the Miami Marlins. And also possible the Colorado Rockies too. Why? Because the White Sox actually have young pitching talent, unlike the Rockies. And while the White Sox still got some of their roster players like Andrew Vaughn, Andrew Benintendi, Luis Robert Jr., I just believe that I think there's a possible chance that Will Venable could do a better job at managing the White Sox than Pedro Grifol ever did, and Grady Sizemore for a small bit of last season. Obviously, they're most likely going to trade Luis Robert Jr., which I'm not going to lie. As a White Sox fan, it's going to be very sad to see him go. They still got Andrew Benintendi, still got Andrew Vaughn, but then look at some of the young guys. Edgar Quero, Kai Teal, who, by the way, they got in the Garrett Crochet trade. Braden Montgomery, Colson Montgomery, Braden Merritt, who they just called up to who they did call up to the big league team. They still got Brooks Baldwin. They still got Corey Lee, who's going to come into his second season as a catcher. Now, I know pitching-wise, they don't have Drew Thorpe or Jesse Schultz, which both of them are out due to Tommy John surgery. Now, I do think the White Sox are going to be improvement. Now, do I think they're going to be a playoff team at the end of the day? No. Could I just see them improve to where maybe they shoot 50-plus wins? Yes. I'm really between 50 to 55, so I have the White Sox at 28. Okay, at 27, I have the Pittsburgh Pirates. I actually wrote an article about which teams I thought were winners and losers, and I had the Pittsburgh Pirates as one of my losers. This team, and I actually say this with the bottom of my heart, this team needs serious help building around Paul Skeens. Because right now, pitching-wise, looks Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, that's about it. Hitting-wise, Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz, Brian Hayes, Andrew McCutchen, one of the greatest athletes to ever put on a Pittsburgh uniform. That's about it. I mean, seriously, they need help. Now, I wanted to put the White Sox ahead of the Pirates, but there's a realistic chance they could finish better. But Pittsburgh Pirate fans, I'm so sorry that you have an owner in Bob Nutting who is literally dragging you all to the ground. I am so sorry. Coming in at number 26, it's the Los Angeles Angels. I just cannot really, for the life of me, understand what direction this team is going to go. Because half the team looks decent, the other half stinks. It's as simple as that. Pitching-wise, I know they traded Griffin Canning to the Braves. I mean, they don't got too much pitching talent, but hitting-wise, they're fine. You know, Mike Trout when healthy, Luis Rengifo, Jorge Soler. I know they got Tim Anderson, Yohan Moncada. They also have Logan O'Hoppe, who looks to be a pretty good player, but I can't understand what direction this team is going to go. And then just ahead of them at number 25, I have the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals, I think they're going to be bad, but I don't think they're going to aim White Sox, Rockies, Marlins bad, where they would be in the 100 loss category. I don't know. The Cardinals, on paper, they stink, but there's a chance that they won't be White Sox, Rockies, Marlins bad. That's the best I can put it out. Coming in at number 24, I have the Washington Nationals. I think this team is going to improve, but just by how much? They're in, I believe, year 2 or 3 under their current rebuild. And right now, I can understand that they may not want to try jump far ahead and then take steps back. So it's pretty understandable. I could see the Nationals try show a bit of fight in the NL East, but they're not going to make the playoffs at the end of the day because there are 3 teams who are most likely going to fight for the postseason. Well, 2 right now, because the third team I'm about to mention right now or later on does stink, unfortunately. Now, coming in at number 23 is the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays have always surprised us. Let's be honest. They will come out of nowhere, show fight, and while the AL East does look tough, I expect the Rays to show some more fight this year. Hopefully, a very healthy Shane McClanahan, but they still got Yanni Diaz. I know they traded Jose Siri, and they obviously picked up Eloy Jimenez on a minor league deal. I expect some fight from the Rays, but just not enough to where they actually make the postseason. Coming in at number 22, I have the Seattle Mariners. The Seattle Mariners, it's simple. Pitching-wise, the team looks good and promising. But from a hitting standpoint, yikes, they look bad. And listen, this team had the chance to improve the hitting-wise. They could have signed guys like Willy Adames, Juan Soto. Even if they did try to get Shohei Ohtani back in the 2023 offseason, they didn't. And you know it's bad enough where Justin Turner, a former Mariner, called them out. So Mariners, I expect a tiny bit of fight, but just not a whole lot. But I also don't think they're going to aim at Marlins bad, by the way. Coming in at number 21 is now the Sacramento Athletics. It's so weird that I can't even call them the Oakland Athletics. John Fisher, what have you done? By the way, listen, we can all agree John Fisher stinks. All right? But the A's, they actually spent some money. And I feel so bad for all the fans in Oakland that the time they did was when they left Oakland. They got Luis Severino, signed him to the highest paid extension at $67 million, which is the highest in franchise history. Brendan Rooker, Lawrence Butler both got extended. And to be honest, I would expect the A's to actually potentially fight for a wild card spot. That's actually one of my hot takes this season. Definitely expect some wild card fight for the A's this season. Now, coming in at number 20, I have the San Francisco Giants. Yes, the Giants picked up Willy Adames. While yes, they have Logan Webb, another great pitching, but hitting-wise, they're not the most exciting, but they look okay. The Giants are just another one of these teams where I can expect to see some fight, but is it going to be enough to get them in the postseason? And I don't really know. Coming in at number 19 is the Toronto Blue Jays. if all goes right, and I know they extended Vladimir Guerrero Jr. 14 years, I think it was 500 million or 550, somewhere around between. But the Blue Jays expect some fight, and everything has to go in luck for them to actually make it to the postseason. So, and to be honest, between them and the Tampa Bay Rays, I could maybe see the Blue Jays try and give the Red Sox, Orioles, and Yankees all a bit of competition this season. So, and while they did extend Vlad Jr., are they going to extend Bo Bichette? There's a ton of question marks. Yeah, 14 years, 500 million, by the way. Are they going to extend Bo Bichette? But they do need to add more extremely exciting hitting. But there's a chance Toronto could be a thing. I know they picked up Jeff Mathis from the offseason, but then that's about it. So that's all I got for there. Now at number 18, I take that back. The Minnesota Twins. The Twins, they were good for most of last season, but then they fell off the cliff. They choked in the month of September. Yikes. The Twins, I feel like they're going to be in a little bit of mediocre because Kansas City, Detroit, Cleveland got better. The White Sox did add a little bit of signing, but we all know they're not going to make the playoffs at the end of the day, so let's not worry about that right now. But the Twins, I don't know. If Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa can stay healthy, if everybody on the Twins can stay healthy, then we could say postseason, but it's a little 50-50 on the air. Speaking of, coming in at number 17, I have the Cincinnati Reds. There's a real chance that the Reds could fight for the wild card spot because the NL Central right now it's good. It's mainly a two-way competition, but the Reds could be sneaky and make the postseason because we all know the Pirates stink. They're going nowhere. The St. Louis Cardinals are stuck in mediocre and no man's land. So at 18 or 17, sorry, I have the Reds. Coming in at number 16, the Kansas City Royals. The Royals surprised most of us this past season by making the playoffs, and I expect them to fight and make the playoffs again. Good hitting all around, good pitching all around. Expect some competition. Then at number 15, the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers, man, they surprised all of us. They actually went on a hot streak and made the playoffs. They're another team I would say don't sleep on them this season. If Spencer Torkelson can bounce back, if Javier Baez could somehow learn not to swing at every single pitch, that would be nice. But their young outfield depth looks super bright. The pitching, too. Tariq Skubal. They brought back Jack Flaherty. Watch out for the Tigers this season. Then at number 14, I have the Houston Astros. This season could be a done one for Houston. Do I think they're going to make the playoffs at the end of the day? No, although I would be shocked if they did. They're moving Jose Altuve to left field, which I don't know how to feel about that. They still got Jeremy Pena. They still got Yordan Alvarez, but most of their World Series team is basically slipping away. Alex Bregman left. Carlos Correa's been Gonzo Alonso. The Dynamos just fell for Houston. Then at number 13, I have the Cleveland Guardians. Okay, why do I have the Guardians around the top 15? Because it's simple. While we can all say that that they barely make moves, that they're probably not going to be better, but I'm expecting Cleveland to somehow, some way surprise all of us. Yes, they have Jose Ramirez, one of the best third basemen to play the game of baseball, and definitely one of the best hitters today. I don't think he's the best, but he's one of the best. Now, from the pitching wise, if Shane Bieber can stay healthy, I just basically expect Cleveland. I wouldn't be shocked if they won the AL Central again this season. But, there's a reason why postseason they've been called the Cleveland Chokers. And remember, Cleveland choked a 3-0 series lead. So the Guardians, if everything goes well, they could definitely be a World Series contender this season. Okay, I'm actually going to make a change to this list, and I actually just made this last minute, but coming at number 12 is the Atlanta Braves. While there's a possibility that they could still be a top team in the NL East, which it's going to be obvious because I think now the Central, that's a question mark. Postseason, not really. Once they get Spencer Strider and Ronald Acuna back, I know Strider just came back. Acuna has not came back yet. I think he's supposed to soon. But when everyone's healthy, Braves are a postseason contender. Now, are they World Series contender? Maybe. But I wouldn't count them out to make the postseason. Now, coming in at number 11, I have the New York Yankees. I actually had the Yankees in my top 10, but after Giancarlo Stanton and his elbow's basically broken, Garrett Cole out for the year and Tommy John surgery, that's the reason why I bumped them out of my top 10. Without Garrett Cole, what does their pitching depth look like? And I think hitting is going to be okay, but without Giancarlo Stanton, who, by the way, carried the Yankees in the 2024 postseason and World Series all by himself. So, Yankees are always going to be Yankees, but I put them at 11 for more. What does their pitching depth look like without Garrett Cole for a whole season? Let's put that into facts. Coming in at number 10, I actually have the Boston Red Sox. Okay, the Red Sox, what an offseason. They picked up Alex Bregman on a 3-year, $120 million deal. They obviously acquired Garrett Crochet from the Chicago White Sox. Do not sleep on the Red Sox, folks. This season, the Red Sox could easily surprise everyone, and they're definitely going to make a strong push for the postseason. In fact, they could easily give the Yankees and Orioles a run for their money. Watch out for the Red Sox this season. Now, coming in at number 9, I have the Chicago Cubs. So I think the NL Central is going to go to either the Cubs or the Brewers. It just depends on who gets hot at the right time. Now the Cubs, hitting wise, they look pretty good. We know they got Kyle Tucker, Ryan Presley, Justin Turner, to name a few. I named those 3 because all 3 of them won a World Series. They picked up Matthew Boyd in free agency, a good starting pitching depth to go along with the pitching of Ben Brown, who I expect to get more pitching time. I know Javier Sa's going to come back soon. They have James Taillon. They have Shota Imanaga. And lineup-wise, with Kyle Tucker, they have Pete Crow Armstrong at center, Ian Happ at left. At third base, you could go with whoever. Matt Shaw, I know they called him up, but they also just set him down. But short and second, Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner. You got Michael Busch, who was a pretty underrated player for the Cubs last season. And then catching-wise, can Miguel Amaya take his next step? And I know they also picked up Carson Kelly. How's he going to do? And I know he's kind of off to a hot start so far with the Cubs. So I also have the Cubs at 9. Just my question from them last season, it was more the bullpen. I know they got Ryan Presley, but 2024, the Cubs bullpen was pretty shaky. So can the bullpen rebound? Because I'm confident in the starting pitching and hitting. What about their bullpen? Next up at number 8 is the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, listen, I was wrong on the Brewers last season, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Pat Murphy came out of nowhere and coached them to the postseason, even though the New York Mets did smack them out of the postseason. But don't sleep on the Brewers this season because they're just a really dominant team. Now, coming in at number 7, I have the Texas Rangers. Another one of my hot takes is, in terms of teams who I think are going to bounce back and make the postseason this season, I think it's going to be the Texas Rangers. I think if everyone stays healthy, and if Jacob deGrom could be Jacob deGrom or somewhat close, Andrew Heaney doing well, don't sleep on the Rangers because they're going to potentially be healthy and make the postseason. Coming in at number 6 is the New York Mets. Congratulations, Mets fans. You got the biggest free agent all last season, Juan Soto. They made the postseason. They're going to do it again with Soto, Alonso, Brendan Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Jeff McNeil, Francisco Alvarez, the catcher. Ooh, Steve Cohen is not messing around. And watch out for the New York Mets this season. They surprised all of us in the postseason. I expect them to fight against the Braves and Phillies and make the postseason. Then coming in at number five, the San Diego Padres. Hitting wise, Luis Ariz, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill, Jake Cronenworth, Manny Machado. This team does look pretty dominant right now in the San Diego Padres. And also starting pitching is looking okay. Might need to clean up a little bit, but the Padres, who they could give a run for their money? The Los Angeles Dodgers. And another team that I'm about to name who I think are also going to make the postseason, because coming in at number 4 is the Arizona Diamondbacks. With the addition of Corbin Burns, the Diamondbacks, just like the Texas Rangers, I think both of them are going to bounce back and make the postseason. Now, World Series, that's a bit of a question mark. But the Diamondbacks, Corbin Carroll staying healthy, if Ketel Marte can still have the season that he was having last season, watch out for the Diamondbacks, because this team looks a bit sneaky from pitching and hitting standpoint. Now, coming in at number 3 is the Baltimore Orioles. I mainly have them at 3 because of the hitting lineup. Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson. I know they lost to Anthony Santander. He's a Blue Jay. They still have Jackson Holliday. This team is going to be fine from a hitting standpoint. Pitching, we could question that. They have a 41-year-old Charlie Morton. I don't know how that's going to do for a full season. Felix Bautista going to come back. He's going to do well for the Orioles. So I have the Orioles at 3, but also from a hitting standpoint. At number 2, I have the Philadelphia Phillies. I really expect the Phillies to dominate this season. In fact, I have them winning the NL East this season. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Alec Bohm, JT Realmuto. I could go on. And even pitching, Zach Wheeler did well. So just watch out for the Phillies this season. And to anybody, is anybody really shocked that I have the Dodgers at number 1? I mean, they just won the World Series. They're just dominant. Ohtani, Betts, James Outman, I know he's still on the team. They have Miguel Rojas. They have Will Smith, Max Muncy, pitching-wise. Clayton Kershaw, Dodger legend, and one of the greatest Dodger pitchers, if not the greatest. They have Dustin May, Michael Kopech in the bullpen. They got Tanner Scott in the offseason. I wouldn't be shocked if the Dodgers are a possible repeat contenders this season. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on that. And stay tuned for episodes 202 and 203, because both of them are going to have who I have winning the NBA Finals and the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. Now, speaking of the Pittsburgh Pirates, boy, oh boy, they have been on the downward side as of late. First off, the Pittsburgh Pirates they have like a little Roberto Clemente I know they have a statue of it at PNC Park, but they have a little Roberto Clemente honor in the right field. What did they put in return? They put a beer product in there. Just, what are we doing? And not just that. The Pittsburgh Pirates also removed bricks. The fan bought bricks, and they left them at a dump. Just, my question to you guys is this. Is Bob Nutting the worst owner currently in Major League Baseball? While I know we have all clowned, and rightfully so, John Fisher, but I feel like Bob Nutting's right about there. Because I feel so bad for the fan base. Not only did this team hardly spend any money in free agency. I mean, Tommy Pham's like their biggest pickup. That's about it. But also removing Fan, bought bricks, and also taking out Roberto Clemente in your right field and you put a beer product in there, and it's bad enough when Roberto Clemente's son had to make a press conference and say his thoughts about it. Just terrible, terrible move by Bob Nutting. Easily one of the worst owners, not just in baseball, but in all sports. You guys let me know your thoughts and opinions on Twitter at BillmanSports, Instagram at BillmanSportsGuy, and here on YouTube at BillmanSportsGuy. All right. Enough about the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, we're going to the NHL really quick, and then the NBA, because I got a question for both NHL and NBA. NHL, Logan Couture, a longtime player of the San Jose Sharks, had to announce his retirement due to an injury. Now, Logan Couture was drafted 9th overall in 2007 by the San Jose Sharks, and he did one of the rarest things that ever happens in sports, which is spend your career with one team. And Logan Couture played that in the San Jose Sharks. By the way, he had a dominant run in their 2016 Stanley Cup final run, which they lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins when he notched 30 points in 24 games. And Logan Couture in his career, he scored 323 goals, 701 points in 933 games of his NHL career. Easily one of the greatest Sharks players. Hall of Fame worthy? No. But if there was a San Jose Sharks Hall of Fame, he's definitely up there, in my opinion. And now before we go, I do want to give out a couple things. Another NHL thing. Now we're in the postseason, but did you know Alex Ovechkin has the most game-winning goals in the regular season and also the most clutch player? Alex Ovechkin has 136. At second, Jaromir Jagr with 135. Gordie Howe at 121 in third. In fourth, Phil Esposito at 118. Now, a tie for fifth, Brett Hull and Teemu Selanne, both with 110. Then a tie for sixth with Brendan Shanahan and Patrick Marleau with both 109. At seventh, Jerome McGinley with 101. And number 8, Bobby Hull with 98. So I want to give that. The biggest shocking news of the NBA this week is Michael Malone got fired by the Denver Nuggets, which is pretty surprising. And not only did he recently brought a championship back 3 years ago, but already it's kind of shocking. And this is also going to go to part of it because while for the my NBA playoff episode, which is going to be coming up, I didn't count the play-ins, by the way, which maybe it was a good move because who lost in the play-in? The Chicago Bulls. Who's still their head coach? Billy Donavan, who has been mediocre ever since becoming head coach of the Chicago Bulls. So I want to ask this. Should the Chicago Bulls fire Billy Donavan and potentially hire Michael Malone or Mike Malone? Yeah, Michael Malone. Could he possibly be the next Bulls coach and maybe finally bring the Bulls a championship since 1998? You guys let me know your thoughts and opinions. So thank you for tuning in to episode number 201 of Bill Man the Sport Guys podcast. I'm your host, Bill Man the Sports Guy. For the latest news of the NBA, MLB, NBA, and NHL, this is the podcast to be, along with college sports. And also, if you ever want to let me know your thoughts and opinions, check me out on Twitter at BillmanSportsGuy, Instagram at BillmanSportsGuy, and here on YouTube at BillmanSportsGuy. Yeah, Twitter's at BillmanSports, by the way. All right. Stay tuned for episode number 201. Peace.